manufacturing untraceable firearms, which is what he's doing, he's going to get sent to prison for a very long time. I've spoken to him about this, he's aware of the risks, and he's agreed to meet with us anyway. So hopefully he's going to explain to us why he's 3D printing his own guns and to tell us about the network he's a part of that is helping him do this. The network is called Deterrence Dispense. They're global, all over the world, and basically their main aim is to make it impossible for authorities anywhere to stop people having a gun. This is Deterrence Dispensed. They were decentralized 3D printed. So right now we're somewhere in Western Europe. I can't exactly say where we are because the guy we've come here to meet has been secretly 3D printing his own assault rifles. Now obviously that is completely illegal here, gun laws are very strict, and if this guy is caught manufacturing untraceable firearms, which is what he's doing, he's going to get sent to prison for a very long time. I've spoken to him about this, he's aware of the risks, and he's agreed to meet with us anyway. So hopefully he's going to explain to us why he's 3D printing his own guns and to tell us about the network he's a part of that is helping him do this. The network is called Deterrence Dispense. They're global, all over. 3D printed guns are the absolute freedom for Deterrence Dispensed has been incorrectly characterized online as either a far-right organization or a political anarchist group. They're neither. In fact, they don't have any specific ideology other than unconditional free speech and the absolute freedom for anyone to own a firearm. Deterrence Dispensed are brazenly spreading these ideas and their downloadable gun instructions all over the world. There are thousands in their community, mostly based in America, where 3D printed guns are legal. However, these guns have spread to Western Europe. 3D printed semi-automatic rifles that take 9mm rounds. They're robust, they don't blow up in your hands, and they're untraceable. They can be made in someone's bedroom. At Popular Front, we managed to get access to the founder of Deterrence Dispensed, a man known as Jay Stark. He lives and operates in Europe. Jay Stark agreed to meet us on the condition that we protect his identity and exact location.
Now it is, isn't it? So don't worry.
Which parts are plastic 3D printed and which parts are metal?
Printed. That's basically what you see from this side.
So about 80% of it is 3D printed.
You could say that, yeah.
Yeah.
About 80%, yeah.
So firstly explain to us why you're doing this. Why are you 3D printing untraceable firearms?
I'm of the opinion that to bear firearms is a human right. The government or the entity that has the rule over you has an executive force, the police, the military, they have firearms. To be able to escape that injustice, they need to have the same force on an individual level as the executive force of the government entity that is ruling over them. So this is my ideological reasoning. And then a different reason why I'm
shooting heated plastic filament through a nozzle, layer by layer, to slowly create the object. We're gonna print 2 frames, just to be sure. Printing these 2 frames will take about 13 hours, which is pretty quick. Back when Cody Wilson, a pioneer in the DIY gun movement, printed the Liberator, the original one-shot 100% 3D printed pistol in 2013, 3D printers were much slower, and the materials were pretty unreliable by comparison and cracked easily. When Cody Wilson tested that first ever 3D printed gun, he was concerned that it might blow up in his hands. He even used a string to pull the trigger for the first time. To some degree, I'm still a little worried about that, to be honest. DIY gun fails are still pretty common. When I made an AR-15 in Wired's office in 2015, a gunsmith warned me the frame of the gun that I had made wouldn't be reliable enough and recommended I use an aluminum lower receiver I'd made with a computer-controlled milling machine instead. We're about to see how much that question of reliability has changed over the years. Okay, let's get started. Hopefully this whole experiment won't literally blow up in my face. The next morning, I returned to check on the 3D printed frames. This is pretty wild. Like, these things look like actual gun parts. So this looks like a big block, but all of this is support structure that just holds up the top of the frame here. So once I crack this off, oh yeah, I don't need to even clean anything out of this internal cavity here. This just looks almost like commercially made. It's so clean on the inside. It's just really impressive what a 3D printer can do today, overnight. So the frame is done. Now it's time to assemble this gun. I know from experience that it's tricky assembling a gun from scratch. There are lots of little pieces, and to be honest, I have no idea what I'm doing. So that's why I've reached out to a DIY gun expert and YouTuber who calls himself Print Shoot Repeat. He prefers to keep his face covered to preserve his anonymity. So what do you think of this 3D printed 9mm frame?
It looks beautiful. It's very excellent print quality.
So how do we get started?
So, do you see that hole there?
I saw the hole at the bottom,
Yeah.
So you are a 3D printed gun aficionado. What is it about these things that appeals to you?
I think the thing I like the most about it, aside from exercising your constitutional rights, which is awesome, but you're able to make guns that you can't buy. There are these really cool, intricate, neat designs that people create and test that you can make that you actually can't purchase in a store, but also to be anonymous and private with your gun making.
But there's also this element to 3D printed guns that somebody who's mentally ill or a felon or Luigi Mangione can, fabricate their own gun and go out and commit a crime with it. I mean, how do you feel about that?
Freedom is ultimately dangerous. There's no way to stop people from hurting each other, unfortunately. I don't love that people commit crimes and kill each other with guns, but they are designed for killing. I'm not going to deny that. But we live in a country that is relatively free when it comes to a lot of our laws, and especially the Second Amendment.
It is kind of remarkable, the precision of this. It seems like a commercial piece.
The design of this particular pistol was so good in 2020 that it's still the go-to Glock style frame. It's open source, and designers can take the raw blueprint of this thing and then add their own tweaks to it.
If you really were like a lone wolf killer trying to make this thing alone in your garage, where would you learn this?
Or if you were just someone who's into building guns and not a lone wolf killer. But there are assembly videos, particularly like the sites where you download some of the files, but it's a lot of trial and error.
The slide to me is like shocking to even look at. It's like, I can't believe this is just a component of a gun. So it's just strange that like the regulated part is not the part that holds the rounds.
Yep, that's per the ATF. The ATF decided that. So thanks, ATF. This can be challenging because what can happen is the rear rails sometimes don't line up perfectly. Yep, now pull it back as hard as you can. Now let it go. All right, now we got our gun. And just make sure you don't point it at anyone.
I see the empty chamber.
Yep.
And now we're gonna put in one of these magazines. And which one do you think we should use?
What I found on the evidence photograph, there was two magazines. One was a Glock 17 magazine, which holds 17 rounds versus a Glock 19 magazine. This is a Magpul P-Mag. This one had jacketed hollow points in it. Going off that, I would say we should stick this one in.
This is essentially Luigi Mangione's gun, but we're still missing one component.
Yes, critical component.
Which is the suppressor.
Exactly.
Suppressors, also known as silencers, have been highly regulated under the National Firearms Act since 1934, and 3D printing one without a certain kind of gun-making license would be a serious felony. Since James has that license, he's going to do it for us.
So it's quite a process to legally own and possess a suppressor. The second you print out a suppressor, felony, prison, so it's a very serious deal.
3D printed suppressors are a relatively new phenomenon, and the technology to make ones like the FTN suppressor allegedly found on Mangione has come a long way in a very short time. So the suppressor is printing, and it looks like it's going to take another 3.5 hours.
Yeah, it smells a little bit like a burning vacuum cleaner. When this is done, we actually have to fill out a couple set of federal forms.
After a few more hours of 3D printing, we had our suppressor. We wrapped it in hockey tape just as Luigi Mangione allegedly did. So I think we're now ready to put this thing together, right?
Yeah, go right ahead, thread it on.
Once I screwed it onto the barrel of our gun, we had the complete configuration he was accused of using as a murder weapon. This thing just got at least like twice as scary. Before heading to the range to test it, I wanted to get the gun control side of the story, so I spoke to Nick Saplina at the nonprofit Everytown for Gun Safety.
3D guns are a whole new ballgame. I think 3D printed guns are about to have their moment.
I've covered this world of 3D printed guns since 2013, and back then, I wrote about this believing it was kind of a science fictional future phenomenon.
I do not think this is a future problem. ATF estimated that between 2016 and 2022, over 70,000 ghost guns were recovered at crime scenes across the country. The technology has really come of age. The printers are better, the materials are better, and the designs are better.
There are models of gun that have come out in the last few years. These almost fully 3D printed semi-automatic rifles that truly look like something out of science fiction and are really powerful and really accurate.
One of the things that has developed over the last decade or more is a community of creators and sharing designs and improving upon each other's designs. And a lot of that are values that creators, I think, really can embrace. But we can't lose sight that this is about firearms. You have a right to personal protection, but when you're purposefully creating firearms that are flooding communities with illegal firearms that are used in crimes, and when we're innovating to make them harder to regulate, you have to ask yourself the question, just how serious is this community about doing their part to protect the community? I mean, we have seen already that you can actually have most of the parts of the firearm be fully 3D printed. That is the state of the art right now, and that is going to be the next chapter of the ghost gun problem in this country.
I might look calm on the surface, but to be honest, I'm sweating a little bit. It's a strange moment when this kind of abstract and technical series of steps finally comes together, and you remember that you've created something really powerful and quite dangerous. In fact, the exact gun that appears to have killed a man on the streets of Manhattan last year. So for this first shot, I'm gonna just hold it to the side from the hip. Just in case this slide flies off the 3D printed frame and goes backwards at a high speed. Moment of truth. Wow.
How'd we do? Intact?
Totally flawless, yeah.
Nice. Decently quiet for supersonic ammunition as well.
Well, let's load it up again.
All right.
I don't know. Let's see. Another misfire. So I guess what's happening here is that the suppressor is preventing it from cycling properly?
Yes, what's happening is the slide's coming forward, but probably not quite enough to strike the primer and then cause a detonation downrange. But we did get a couple there, so I want to kind of give it a shot
Yeah.
and see if I can break it in a little bit. As we saw in the DCT camera video, he was going like this after every shot, hitting the back of the slide like you did correctly. But I want to actually see if this is going to function without the suppressor attached.
Let's do that. Let's take it off.
Okay.
In a normal semi-automatic Glock, the upper part of the gun, known as its slide, which retracts with every shot, resets the trigger and loads a new round into the chamber. In the video of Thompson's murder, the gun, allegedly fired by Mangione, appears not to have functioned. That's a result of the suppressor attachment preventing that rechambering. And yet, the CEO killer in the CCTV video didn't panic or stop to diagnose his ghost gun's apparent malfunctioning. He reacted quickly, racking the gun, shooting it, and racking again, as if he knew exactly how the weapon he had made would perform. Had the assassin practiced with his gun at a range to break it in? Had he, in fact, engaged in exactly the type of troubleshooting we were doing right now?
Not everything works, so you got to do a little bit of filing sometimes. We've done a little bit of modifications. We're going to see if it runs semi-automatic.
You take it for a spin.
It's so close now. Oh, there we go. Oh, there it is. Yep.
Here you can see that when we take off the suppressor, the gun functions as a truly semi-automatic firearm. All right, let's try the suppressor.
Let's do it. We got the suppressor on. We made some modifications to the barrel and the slide. Hopefully it'll run.
You were manually racking it, but just like we saw in the video of Brian Thompson's killing. And to be clear, like the thing that we had to file was not the 3D printed part. It was this kind of slightly crappy commercial part. You know, I imagine that for allegedly Mangione himself, he probably had similar kind of hiccups and then probably did take a file to it at some point.
Indeed, and it seemed like he knew that it was going to malfunction in the way that we just saw and was ready for that malfunction.